What forces a species to walk away from the place where it first learned to breathe? Not ambition, not discovery, not hunger for conquest, but something colder, quieter, and far more unforgiving. Roughly 70,000 years ago, in the lingering twilight after the Toba Supereruption, the sky dimmed, the winds sharpened, and whole ecosystems contracted like lungs holding a final breath. Rivers shrank, animal herds thinned, forests whispered their last green hours. And along the eastern edge of Africa, a small group of Homo sapiens stood beside a moonlit shoreline, the Indian Ocean rolling out before them like a road of silver shadows. These were not explorers in the modern sense. They were survivors, families pushed by changing winds and narrowing choices, people whose names are long lost, yet whose choices still shape the world we live in today. But what did they see on that dark horizon, and why did they believe stepping into the unknown might save them? Archaeology, genetics, and ancient coastlines hold only fragments, but together they form a story unlike any other in human history. The Toba eruption did not extinguish humanity, but it compressed it. Ash dimmed sunlight across Africa. Rain patterns shifted unpredictably. Regions that once supported thriving communities turned harsh and unstable. In these conditions, most human groups clung to ecological refuges, pockets of relative stability. But even within these safe zones, life demanded new strategies. Food sources became seasonal. Migration cycles grew longer, and for a few small bands along the East African coast, a new idea took shape. Follow the shoreline, where the tide still fed the land. This was not a single moment of decision. It was a slow realization, unfolding across generations. Survival might lie beyond the familiar. To understand the first exodus, we must understand the coast. Where the interior faltered, the shoreline endured. Tide pools replenished themselves. Shellfish beds remained reliable. Beached fish provided critical protein during dry seasons. The coastal highway hypothesis proposes that early humans followed these resources with precise knowledge of tides, currents, and seasonal changes. No written maps, no formal boats as we know them, just instinct, memory, and simple rafts crafted from driftwood and bundled reeds. The coast was not simply a route, it was a promise that the world still had room for them. Across the Horn of Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and the southern edge of the Indian subcontinent, archaeologists have discovered a strange pattern. Clusters of the same tool, technology's microlithic blades, small stone flakes, and beads coated with ochre. Most strikingly, these artifacts match those found in early African contexts. Their presence along the Red Sea's western shore, then its eastern shore, then far beyond, creates a line faint but unmistakable, tracing the earliest expansion of Homo sapiens. These tools are not grand monuments. They are tiny, simple, easy to overlook, but they mark the slow drumbeat of movement, people carrying memory in the form of craft. Bab el-Mandeb, the Gate of Tears. Today it is a turbulent stretch of water, but at the time of the first exodus, sea levels were lower, narrowing the passage dramatically. How they crossed remains unknown. Perhaps bamboo rafts, perhaps logs bound with plant fibers, perhaps nothing more than courage and a moment of calm tide. Under a moonlit sky, families would have pushed away from Africa's shore, not knowing if land lay at the edge of the darkness, only trusting ancestral memory that the world continued somewhere beyond the waves. With that uncertain crossing, humanity stepped into a new chapter. It is easy to imagine Arabia as endless desert, but during certain ancient periods, it held seasonal rivers, wetlands, and grasslands. Satellite imagery today reveals ghostly tracks of these vanished waterways. After landing on the Arabian Peninsula, early humans likely oscillated between inland patches of green and the familiar safety of the coast. Wet periods drew them inland. Droughts pushed them back to the sea. This rhythm of movement kept them alive, always adjusting, always following the land's shifting pulse. By 65,000 years ago, humans reached India's coastline, a vast world of mangroves, monsoon-fed rivers, and abundant marine life. Here, they left unmistakable signatures: enormous shell middens, ochre-stained beads, stone tools that mirror African patterns with breathtaking precision. And perhaps they met others, unknown hominin groups whose traces remain enigmatic, buried beneath layers of time. This was not mere migration. It was early cultural continuity, a thread carried from Africa through Arabia and into South Asia. Modern population genetics paints a remarkable picture. Almost all non-African humans alive today descend from a small group that left Africa along this very route. Mitochondrial DNA reveals a narrow lineage. The Y chromosome tells the same story. Autosomal markers confirm it again and again. All signs point to a coastal expansion along the Indian Ocean, eventually branching towards Southeast Asia, Australia, and beyond. To look at the genome of a modern person outside Africa is to see faint echoes of those first people walking into an unknown world. Monsoon cycles likely shaped the rhythm of the journey. Shifting winds governed fishing seasons, storm patterns, and available plant life. Communities along the coast adapted brilliantly. They crafted more efficient fishing tools, built semi-permanent coastal shelters, developed shared knowledge networks that passed information across generations. In these littoral environments, human adaptability blossomed, setting the stage for later migrations across island chains and open seas. From India, roots branched outward, toward the dense forests of Southeast Asia, toward the island world of Indonesia, toward Australia, where humans arrived tens of thousands of years earlier than once believed. Each wave was shaped by climate, curiosity, or necessity, but all were rooted in the same original movement, the decision taken on an African shoreline long before written history existed. Still, the question lingers, as it has since the opening: why leave it all? The answer is not dramatic, but it is profound. They left because staying meant dwindling options. They left because the world demanded flexibility. They left because survival has always favored those who move when conditions shift. In walking eastward, they reshaped the human story. Their journeys carved paths that future generations would widen. Their resilience echoes through our genomes. Their courage endures in every coastline we map today. So what did they see on that distant horizon? Not a promised land, but a possibility. A chance to keep going. A chance to outrun the tightening world behind them. A chance to begin again after the ash. If ancient winds still stir something in you, if you find meaning in vanished coastlines, buried tools, and the fragile origins of our species, then stay with us on this long trail through deep time. There are more stories waiting in the world's earliest footprints, and together, we can follow them into the ancient dark. We are here because our ancestors kept walking, even when the world seemed to close around them.